Imagine for a moment that you've poured out your energy, kindness, and resources throughout your entire life. You've given tirelessly to your family, your friends, your workplace, and even people you hardly knew. You gave because it felt right, because you wanted to see others grow and thrive, and because for many years it was necessary. Responsibilities and commitments demanded that you put your own needs on hold. You did it out of love, duty, or a sense of purpose. But as the years roll on, as you enter that stage we call old age, you may glance around and wonder, where did all of that energy go? Even more pressing, who is here to return the favor? The harsh truth is that the answer is often disappointing. People go about their own struggles. The younger generation is no different than you were at their age, preoccupied with careers, relationships, raising children, and simply figuring out who they are. Life surges forward at a relentless pace, rarely giving anyone a moment to reflect on who gave them a helping hand in the past. It's easy to fall into bitterness. You might catch yourself asking, after all I've done, doesn't anyone see my sacrifices? Why isn't anyone stepping up to return what I once gave them? But that train of thought leads to deeper disappointment. So what is the solution? The simplest yet most challenging answer is to shift the focus inward, onto yourself. Many of us spent decades investing in everything and everyone: children, spouses, extended family, social circles, professional networks, and even acquaintances who crossed our paths. Sacrifice becomes second nature. That level of devotion was essential when we were busy raising a family, building a career, or maintaining a web of relationships. You might have taken a phone call at midnight from someone who needed your help, spent long hours at work to provide stability for your household, or gone the extra mile for friends just to see them succeed. However, when you grow older, it's time for a change in perspective. Those same people often, though not always, drift away, not necessarily out of cruelty, but because they too are caught in the current of their own lives. They have to manage their own families, their own careers, and their own set of responsibilities. The painful lesson is that the unconditional care you offer will rarely be mirrored back in the exact way you gave it. Instead of mourning the absence of reciprocation, consider choosing to reclaim what you once poured into others. Now is the moment to recenter yourself, to acknowledge that your energy is finite and precious. You deserve to reap the benefits of your own presence. It's your right to guard your mental, emotional, and physical well-being, and to do so without guilt or apology. This isn't a matter of abandoning others or living in a hermitage of isolation. It means setting healthy boundaries and saying no when you cannot or do not wish to meet every request. It means recognizing that your time is just as valuable now, perhaps more valuable than it ever was. Old age does not have to be a twilight of loneliness. It can be a new dawn of self-discovery. Within this transformation, cultivating a sense of internal calm is pivotal. One of the most underappreciated tools for nurturing that calm is silence. We spend the early portions of our lives feeling compelled to assert ourselves, to talk over misunderstandings, to prove our worth, to win arguments, and to chase validation. We engage in debates, feeling that if we just pick the right words, we might make everyone understand. Yet, as we grow older, we discover that most people listen not to hear, but to respond. They desire the confirmation of their own beliefs more than they crave the insight that comes from another perspective. That's why silence becomes a sign of maturity, not of surrender. When you choose to remain silent, you aren't abandoning your convictions. Rather, you're conserving your energy. You're acknowledging that many arguments lead nowhere, especially if the other party isn't ready to absorb what you're offering. Silence represents clarity, an awareness that not every point needs to be proven to others, and not every misunderstanding demands a personal crusade for vindication. Over time, you'll notice that the less you speak, the more you observe. You start to see the ways people reveal their true selves through actions rather than words. You become more attuned to subtle cues, to genuine kindness versus false flattery, to authenticity versus performance. When you're not constantly striving to be heard, you gain the mental space to reflect, to recognize what truly matters, and to walk away from conversations that waste your precious time. Some might fear that practicing silence implies passivity, that you're giving up on sharing your wisdom. But it's the opposite. Silence allows you to apply your wisdom selectively and in contexts that truly matter. Rather than casting pearls before those unwilling to receive them, you become strategic, offering insights only to those who are open and curious. You learn that sometimes the greatest gift you can give another person is the freedom to learn from their own life, their own choices, and yes, their own mistakes. As we move through life, many of us experience the desire to intervene when we see younger individuals repeating the errors that our generation once made. But often, unsolicited advice falls on deaf ears, especially if the recipient isn't in a place to accept it. People seldom cherish guidance unless they have specifically asked for it. They want to chart their course, even if it leads them to a cliff's edge. That can be heartbreaking to witness when your intentions are grounded in genuine concern. Yet the most compassionate thing you can do, for them and for yourself, is to stand back, let them learn, and remain open to them if they eventually come seeking your perspective. You are not abandoning them. You are respecting their autonomy and protecting your peace. In old age, you earn the right, and indeed have the responsibility, to safeguard your tranquility and clarity of mind. Another component to finding lasting serenity in your later years is abandoning the pursuit of constant validation. So many of us spend our youth chasing approval from family, peers, superiors at work, and even total strangers. We long to hear that we're doing the right thing, that we're admirable or successful. Over time, it becomes clear that this thirst for external praise is bottomless. No amount of applause can fill an internal void unless we learn to validate ourselves. In old age, continuing to seek external validation becomes a trap. Instead of living freely, you remain chained to others' opinions. You might still be waiting for someone, your grown children, your old boss, that friend who never acknowledged your support, to finally say, "I see you. I appreciate you." The somber reality is that they might never say it, not because you don't deserve it, but because they're entangled in their own narratives. Releasing yourself from that need is profoundly liberating. When you internalize the belief that your worth is not contingent on anyone else's praise, you experience a new dimension of freedom. You no longer worry whether people approve of your decisions, your lifestyle, or your boundaries. You move through life with self-assurance, trusting your own judgment. Crucially, you can still maintain compassion without sacrificing self-worth. Caring for yourself is not an act of selfishness, but of self-preservation. After decades of placing others at the center, it's time to place yourself in focus. This shift can be unsettling at first. Society may have conditioned you to feel that you owe your energy to everyone else before yourself. But now, you have permission to step forward as the center of your own life. Prioritizing your well-being is not a frivolous pursuit. It's an absolute necessity. The older you get, the more your body and mind demand proactive care. When you were young, you might have believed you had an endless supply of vitality. Long work hours, stressful relationships, poor eating habits, these might have seemed sustainable. Over time, those choices catch up. Now you owe it to your future self to treat your body with gentle respect, fueling it with nutritious foods, staying as active as your health allows, and getting proper rest. You might integrate calming rituals like walks in nature or stretches in the morning sun. You could rediscover old hobbies or cultivate new ones that bring a sense of purpose. Reading that stack of books you always meant to open, writing your reflections in a journal, painting, gardening, or even learning a musical instrument if it intrigues you. These are not indulgences, they are lifelines. They keep your mind sharp and your soul enriched. Mental well-being is equally vital. Rid yourself of toxic relationships and draining entanglements. If certain people or situations chronically erode your peace, you have every right to step away. If setting boundaries or minimizing contact feels harsh, remind yourself that your emotional energy is not infinite. You're simply acknowledging your limits and choosing to use your remaining years in the healthiest way possible. Some will accuse you of selfishness if you reduce your availability, yet you must remember that those people often benefited from your willingness to give without limit. If they cannot respect your need to focus on your own health and tranquility, it underscores precisely why boundaries are crucial. Old age can be an era of profound contentment if you reclaim your autonomy. Yet, there's a deeper dimension to all of this: happiness. So often, we talk about waiting for happiness to arrive. We might assume we'll find it once our loved ones reciprocate the care we gave, or once society recognizes our contributions. But that day might never come in the way we imagine. The key insight is that happiness is not bestowed upon you, it must be seized. Happiness, especially in your later years, must become a conscious choice. You decide to create joy, to foster your well-being, and to fill your life with experiences and moments that uplift you. You do not have to wait for others to give you permission. Embrace the realization that you have the freedom, now more than ever, to shape your routine and environment in a way that nourishes your soul. Stepping into this mindset takes courage. At first, you might wrestle with guilt or the fear of letting others down. You might worry that you're neglecting duties you once shouldered. But reflect on this. If you don't prioritize your peace and vitality at this stage, who else will do it for you? People may care, but not necessarily to the extent of rearranging their entire lives to ensure your happiness. That responsibility rests on your own shoulders. And that's not something to lament, it's empowering. It means you hold the key to how fulfilling and peaceful your life can be. You decide where to invest your energy and what kind of relationships you want to maintain. You get to say no when a demand infringes on your sense of well-being. Consider the liberation in no longer chasing gratitude from others. Rather than feeling disappointed by a lack of thanks or recognition, you can direct that kindness inward and say, "I see the effort I've made, and I'm proud of it." You can become the source of your own approval. And ironically, when you grant yourself this recognition, you'll find that you're more capable of extending genuine kindness to others without expectation. Putting yourself first in old age also means carefully discerning what truly brings you meaning. It could be time with loved ones who genuinely cherish your presence. It could be solitary activities that spark your imagination. It might be connecting with a community that shares your interests, whether that's a book club, a local group of gardening enthusiasts, or an online network of people who enjoy the same creative pursuits. Aging does not have to equate to despair or irrelevance. It can be a time of spiritual and emotional blossoming. But that blossoming only happens if you cultivate your own garden, rather than hoping someone else will arrive to water the seeds you planted. I want to emphasize one last thing. It is entirely possible to care for others while simultaneously placing yourself at the forefront. Compassion for others is a beautiful trait, and it doesn't vanish simply because you turn your attention inward. The difference lies in balance and boundaries. You can be present for someone who genuinely values your support, but you don't allow that role to deplete you entirely. You give counsel when it's sought, and when you feel you can spare the energy, rather than forcing unsolicited advice onto people who won't listen. You offer love and kindness without jeopardizing your own emotional stability. You remain open to meaningful connections without feeling obligated to hold on to draining or manipulative relationships. When you find this balance between empathy for others and care for yourself, you stand on a foundation of wisdom that allows you to endure life's inevitable ups and downs with greater resilience. You enter a space where silence is not loneliness, but reflection, where solitude is not isolation, but the discovery of inner resources, and where your remaining years become a valuable chapter rather than a footnote. Ultimately, it all converges on one core truth. If you do not actively choose yourself, no one else can do it for you. Old age clarifies that we each have a finite amount of time left, so it's imperative to dedicate that time to nourishing our own well-being, protecting our peace of mind, and crafting the kind of life that genuinely fulfills us. No longer do you need to chase validation or chase others' attention. You are finally free to stand tall in the life you've built and say, "I will invest in what nourishes me." You can gently close the door on past regrets, unfruitful arguments, and the draining need to be everything to everyone. Instead, you open another door, one leading to serenity, self-respect, and the joy of being wholly present for yourself. This journey might feel unfamiliar if you've spent decades prioritizing everyone else. Yet, it's not only a privilege, it's a responsibility, both to yourself and to those around you. You set an example for younger generations, demonstrating that it's possible to live with dignity, independence, and self-compassion in your later years. You become a beacon of quiet strength, someone who understands that while life doesn't always reward you for your past sacrifices, you can still find peace and purpose in the here and now. So as you wake up each day, step onto the stage of your life with a renewed focus on self-care. Let silence and observation guide your interactions. Let discernment shape the way you offer help and advice. Let self-approval anchor your sense of worth. And let joy, in every form, be something you actively cultivate. Know that you have permission to live the life you want, not tomorrow, or when someone else decides you've done enough, but starting right now. This is the time to choose peace, freedom, and the unshakable understanding that your final chapters can be a testament to self-empowerment. Embrace it fully and allow yourself to flourish in ways you might never have imagined, all thanks to the wisdom and resilience you've cultivated across a lifetime.